the atmosphere of discovery, where we discover the master's plan for our lives. So today's session is on the power of expectation. This is session number 85, the power of expectation. So when you expect a thing, you have a strong belief and or faith that it will happen, right? Now hope, on the other hand, is more of a desire. It's a wish. It's not that you are necessarily certain that it can or will happen for you. Faith is that certain expectation, believing without seeing. Okay, so while they all involve anticipating something in the future, they are not all equal, right? So you start with a desire or a wish, which is hope, okay, and then you start believing for it and it becomes an expectation, and then finally believing enough that you don't have to stand there and watch it or see it to know for certain that it will happen, and that is faith. Okay, and so I want to start in the middle. I want to start at expectation, okay, because we all have desires and wishes, but we haven't quite made it to that point of faith yet, right? So I want to discuss the power that your expectations hold towards your future. All right. And I don't mean future like 10 years from now, but I'm saying even as these words are leaving my mouth, what will begin to happen to your mindset when you decide to digest it, right? And then apply it to the way that you expect things to happen for you. So today, again, we're talking about the power of expectation. This is session number 85. So your expectations are the fuel to drive your faith in the right direction, right? If all you listen to and think about are negative expectations, then your future will show exactly that negativity, right? It'll show what you don't want to happen. All the things that you didn't want, they will constantly show up in your life, right? So every expectation has to be attached to something, right? It's like your life being a ball of string. Okay, there's the beginning of the string, which is your foundation, what grounds you. This is what your parents or your guardians or those who have taken care of you, this is what they plant there and what they nourish. The other part that you pull out is what you birth. Okay, and there's something on each end, one to hold it and one to pull it. Does that make sense? What holds it is the things that ground you, right? And the pulling is done by the things that you are expecting, right? And remember, expectations is past the things that you're wishing for. That means you have some sense of certainty that you can achieve this and you can have this. Okay? So that means that if you have lost hope, if you have lost your desire, then you need to deal with that foundation, right? You need to deal with your motivation. And we have two sessions on those already. So, found the foundational principles session, that is session 11. Go and save to watch that later. And also motivation, that is session 72. So, if you have lost hope, you need to deal with your foundation and deal with your motivation. And like I said, that foundation is 11, motivation is session 72. Okay. So are you grounded to the thing that is opposite of your purpose? Right? I want you to ask yourself that question. Are you being motivated in the wrong direction? A lot of people like to say, I'm not motivated. You are motivated, right? You're motivated just in the opposite direction of your purpose, okay? You're always motivated to do something. You're also motivated not to do something, right? Does that make sense? Okay, so if you're standing 10 toes down with the mindset and feelings that are sabotaging you, it's time to rip up that foundation, right? And replace it. You have to have something that grounds you. If your foundation is bad, even if you are truly talented and truly gifted, you won't progress, right? If that foundation is not right. What you are standing on needs to be solid enough to catch you in every season of your life. It needs to catch you when you hear a bunch of no's. It's your foundation, right? What has been rooted and planted and nourished within you that will cause you those no's to not have too much of an effect on you. It needs to catch you when your parents start leaving, right? Your parents get sick and they start dying off. It needs to catch you when your friendships start ending, right? When you start losing jobs, losing money, all these different seasons of your life, your foundation being set and you being grounded on something determines you not having to start all the way over. Right. The only time that you should start completely over is if you started on the wrong road, when your foundation is completely trash, right? It's not anything you can stand on. Sometimes we start over and we scratch everything when all we needed was a push, right? But we just throw up our hands and jump when all we needed was to connect with the right destiny helper, to connect with the right people, and we just trash everything and start over. So some of our start overs was not necessary, right? Sometimes we also allow regret to cause the expiration of our expectation. I'm going to say that again. We allow regret to cause the expiration of our expectation. Regret is all about the past. Regret has nothing to do with the future. Okay? It puts uh it puts regret, right, on the throne, and you continue to bow to it until you're stuck in that position. And you think about when you bow to something, where's your head? It's down. Where's your eyes? It's down. Your ears, your nose, your mouth is down, right? Meaning you can't see, think, hear, smell, or say anything that will bring about forward movement because you've allowed regret. You allowed your past to be on this throne that you continue to bow to. Are you using your past regret to create anxiety and fear of the future? Right? You need to destroy that throne, destroy the reasons, the excuses in order to look up. You will not get anywhere looking down, feeling down, thinking down, and speaking down upon yourself, right? All you're going to get is a result of what you're thinking, feeling, believing, right? Sometimes we bow to regret because of impatience, right? Um, if you would have just had the patience to make a better decision, you would not have become impulsive and irrational, right? And this is how impatience causes your expectations to become polluted. Okay. Now you expect everything right now. You think it should be here. And then that's how you start to treat people around you until you expect them to know your thoughts. And we don't even realize when we're doing this, right? It's because of impatience. You forget that you didn't say this out loud. You forget that you didn't make your request known, right? And when people don't do it, then here comes the wrath from your regret. Okay. So that's how impatience causes your expectations to become polluted, right? If you lack patience, this is a previous session, okay? That's session 83. If you are dealing with impatience, go watch session 83. And these are all free for right now, okay? I don't want you to confuse your stagnation or your procrastination with patience. I'm not going to let you lie to yourself and say that you procrastinating is you having patience. No. Lack of activity and lack of development can be a sign of self destruction, right? When you have no expectation as well, right? So, also, I want you to be aware that just because somebody doesn't see the signs of movement does not mean that there isn't any. And only you know this for sure. Only you know if there's something happening in the background. You know if there's movement behind the scenes or if you're just being lazy, right? So don't lie to people and tell them, oh, I'm just being patient. I'm just waiting on God. And you know you're really being lazy. You know you're really procrastinating. You know that you're at a standstill and there's no movement, right? People can do things for optics, especially on social media, right? And not be going anywhere or doing anything. And right. And then that comparison comes in where, oh, they have this, they're doing this, and they're not doing anything. They're just making things appear that they are moving. And so we want to be careful with comparison because you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. And you don't want to get stuck in that same cycle that they are in of trying to make things look like they are something that they're not. Okay. You are experiencing true patience when you're looking forward with a confident expectation. So this is the difference between stagnation, right, and procrastination and laziness. True patience is when you are looking forward with a confident expectation. And true patience is active. It's not passive. Okay, so even if there is not physical movement being seen, there's something happening with your mindset, right? There's something happening on the phone calls, there's something happening in the meetings. So don't get caught up with having to show other people that something's happening, that you're not actually just going through the motions, but nothing really is happening in the background. So patience is a forward expectation, not one where you keep reverting back to the past, right? Being lazy or going backwards while you're waiting. That is not patience if you're going backwards. Now, if you are looking within yourself and saying, hey, what is the root of this thing? And you're actively doing something to pluck out the root of something that has been harming you, that is patience. So we're not talking about looking back to pluck out roots and regrow in a healthy way. So that's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about actually going backwards and undoing positive things, right? Anxiety. Anxiety affects our expectations. Okay. Hey, Tony. Hey, Jay Brown and Brian B. Elvana. Hey, y'all. I see y'all on here. Alrighty. So, anxiety is when your negative expectations begin to rule your thoughts and feelings. Okay. Anxiety is when your negative expectations begin to rule your thoughts and feelings. This is how you know how powerful your expectations are, right? It depletes your mental strength, which you need your mental strength for understanding and discernment, right? Anxiety strips you of hope and healthy expectations that drive and motivate you to have a purposeful, fulfilled life, right? If you have been experiencing anxiety, it may have been placed there due to your environment, okay? Your environment should be creating an atmosphere conducive to growth and evolvement, right? But if your environment is negatively influencing you, it creates a deferred hope, right? Which anxiety is hope that has been tainted. It's a hope with a negative influence, right? It is hope mixed with fear or an expectation mixed with intense dread, right? This is what anxiety is. And it can be a good or bad expectation mixed with fear that leads to anxiety. Okay, so you can have a good expectation, but that intense dread that comes along with it, that causes you to be anxious, right? And this can come from having hopeful conversations with the wrong people. You're expressing your hope and your expectation with a negative person. That can cause you to be anxious about something that you were truly hopeful for. They can inflict that dread and that fear into you and pollute the hope that you just had. Does that make sense? Okay, so make sure you're not having, and you know people that are negative, right? Make sure you're not having those hopeful conversations with the wrong people. Okay, so you already may have dealt with fear of the unknown as you head towards your goals, but at least you still had hope, right? Before you talk to that negative person. So don't allow anyone or anything to offend your hope because it weakens your spirit, right? Somebody offending that hope that you have will break your heart and cause you to lose momentum and lose your will to live that abundant life, right? If you think about all of the things you hope for, all of the things that you expected, and one conversation, one 5-minute conversation with the wrong person can completely destroy that hope that you had. Reliving the past over and over. I'm talking about this regret, right? Injects fear into your future, right? Giving you that negative expectation, right? So expectations are so powerful, whether they are negative expectations or positive expectations. I want you to understand how powerful what you are expecting is, okay? You will have whatever you are expecting. If you expect failure, you'll have it, right? Have you noticed how quickly people die when the doctor tells them how long they have left to live versus them being able to make that decision on their own to live? Have you noticed that people can appear perfectly healthy because their spirit has that hope? But soon as someone says you have X amount of days left, right? You start to actually see the decline in their health because their spirit has been broken, right? And so we often give ourselves reasons to believe the negative, right? Because it's easier to expect bad than good, especially if you have been rejected or abandoned, right? Because you're used to things not happening for you. You're used to things leaving. You're used to being pushed to the side. But even in that moment that you feel that from wherever it comes, you can make a decision, right? What you're going to think about next. Now, what happens is we start thinking about all of the other times we were rejected and abandoned, and we give power to this new thought instead of deconstructing that thought, making it have no effect on the way that we think, right? Because it has so many memories attached to it, especially if you've been rejected often. We go back and dig back into our past. We haven't processed it, we haven't dealt with it, right? So that causes the now to be more stronger because it has all of those bricks to build it up. Does that make sense? So don't give yourself reasons. You have them. You have reasons. We all have reasons to feel rejected. We all have things in our lives that have left, or, situations that have happened, experience. We all have the reasons, but we are in control with what we use those reasons for. Do we use those reasons as a stepping stone, or do we use those reasons to further, right, cause us to diminish ourselves? Okay, we are in control of that. Even when people are saying things, we're in control if we are receiving or attaching our memories to the things that they're saying to us, right? So, another issue with our expectations is that we don't consider the capacity of ourselves or others when creating these expectations, right? We must refrain from raising our expectation above or beyond our capacity. Okay. So, no matter what is thrown to you, stay in your lane. Okay. We create these internal pressures because we want to do it like so and so did it, right? But if it wasn't shown or spoken to you by God, bring that expectation to your level, right? To your capacity. Sometimes we got to bring it up because sometimes when we have been devalued by a lot of people, we have this low expectation when it needs to be raised up. But then other times we have people that put these expectations on us, or even watching them and that comparison thing, we raise our expectations beyond our capacity, right? So, how many of other people's expectations that were beyond your capacity has caused you unnecessary pressure because of what someone else said you should do or what you thought you should do like someone else? How many expectations caused you unnecessary pressure? Okay. And pressure is session 69. So if you're still experiencing pressure, go back, save it, watch it for later. Okay. So whose expectations should our expectation mirror? Whose expectation should your expectations match? God, right? God's motivation for you is an expected end, right? A great future. Okay, this means his intentions and his purpose for you, whatever he created you for, right, has his expectations for you in it, not yours and not anybody else's unless they hear it from him. Okay, if you can agree with God's expectation of you, even if you don't believe it yet, and that's a big thing, if you can just agree with his expectation, even if you don't believe it, you will get to that point where you can expect the same thing that he expects. Okay. And what he expects is a great future, right? So sometimes this involves us setting boundaries and limits so that we don't supersede our capacity or anyone else's capacity. Okay. So set limits for your feelings. Okay. How long do you want to feel those negative feelings? Your thoughts, those negative behaviors, set a limit instead of giving them an indefinite amount of time to live within you and to make decisions for you. Because if you think on a negative thing for so long, that negative thing will begin to make decisions for you, like decisions that should be made with a clear mind, right? So when setting your boundaries, make sure it is from a place where you are no longer viewing yourself as a victim. You no longer see yourself as inferior to everyone else, right? You're not setting boundaries from a place of fear or that automatic expectation of failure. Okay, so a lot of times we make rules and we make vows and we set boundaries based on that mindset. Does that make sense? That you automatically expect failure, and that's the mindset you're setting boundaries on. So really, you're not setting a boundary, you're setting a cage. You're putting yourself in a cage. Okay, so you don't want to set boundaries from that mindset. You don't want to set boundaries from the mindset of victimhood. Okay, you don't want to set boundaries from the mindset as you're inferior to everyone else, because it is not a boundary where you are protecting yourself from other people. It is a cage that you're keeping yourself locked in. Okay, an expectation outside of your capacity causes pressure, and I want that to sink in with you all. An expectation outside of your capacity causes pressure. People in your life can be good motivators for you, right? But don't let what they say become pressure or drive you away from your purpose, right? Somebody motivating you to be an astronaut, to be a doctor, a pastor, a parent, to be married, right? To have a degree, all of that is pointless if none of that is your purpose, right? So people can and have good intentions and mean well, but if what they're trying to motivate you to do is from what they believe and what they think, and it's not what God said, it will cause pressure. You will find yourself feeling immense pressure trying to be something that is so far from your purpose. So the people that are motivating you, make sure that they're motivating you towards God's created purpose for you, right? And not their own. And parents, we can do this. We can do this to our children. It's up to us to find out where their gifts are, where their talents are, to ask God what He placed in them, so that we are not causing this unnecessary pressure in their life. Their purpose may not have anything to do with a degree. Okay, their purpose may not have anything to do with them behaving a certain way. Okay, so we have to make sure that what we're molding in them is who God created them to be, not our preference. We don't want them to be what we wanted to be, but we didn't. Okay, because parents can do that a lot with the things that they didn't get to accomplish, they want their children to accomplish, but that may not be their purpose. If it's their purpose, by all means push them towards it. But sometimes we have this future set in our minds, and it doesn't match the future that God has written about them, right? So I want us to be careful with that. You should also don't put your expectations on relationships without leaving space for the person. So you see this a lot. I don't know if men do it more than women, but women will have planned their whole lives, right? And they just need a man to pluck right there. Okay. But you need to leave space for that person. You need to leave space for their identity, for their personality. Your expectation must be realistic and leave room for people to seat themselves, not exchanging who they are for your expectation. And this is in any relationship, okay? This happens when you expect things from people that is beyond their capacity because it was formed in your head without space for them. Does that make sense? Employers would do this with employees, right? Family would do it with family, right? Friendships, romantic relationships, right? You've already decided what you want to see, and instead of getting what you expect to get from someone who doesn't have that capacity, you start to demean them and intimidate them for not fitting your expectation, right? You got to leave space for someone to seek their true self, because then what you have is people trying to live up to your expectation, and they're not authentic. That is not even who they are. So then you find yourself falling in love with a person that has changed themselves to be what you have expected, and they can't hold that long. The real them is going to come out, right? We all probably have experienced this. The real them is going to come out, and you like, who is this person? Right? Because they were trying to live up to your expectation, and you didn't leave room for them to see themselves. Okay? So when you go for a job, sometimes people do this when they're going for different careers, right? They show up not as themselves, as this imposter, this representative that is beyond their capacity. And sometimes it works out, right? You're able to learn and grow really fast to measure up to who you presented yourself to be. And sometimes it doesn't work out because the employer is expecting you to be the one you showed up as, but that wasn't who you really were. Okay. So we have to make sure that we are not putting expectations in all types of relationships, right? And not leaving room for people to see their true selves. Okay. And other people may have done this to you, right? And it changed how you viewed yourself. It lowered your expectation of yourself because you were trying to read an expectation for them, right? And then when you couldn't meet it, they began to demean and intimidate you for not fitting their expectation. It was beyond your capacity, right? And so, like I said, this happens in with family members. This happens with parents and children. This happens with spouses. This happens with jobs. This happens in every type of relationship. Make sure that this is not beyond your capacity. And when it's you creating an expectation for someone, if you have created your whole dream world, that you need to understand the person that comes into your life, you need to leave space for them to seat themselves. Okay. If you're saying, I want them to be this, and this, make sure it's in their capacity before you hold them to something that you are expecting. Okay. So your expectation also does not entitle you to anything. Okay. But it puts you in position to receive it. Your expectations, the things that you expect, that you create, does not entitle you to anything, but it does put you in position to receive it. When you start to feel entitled at the expense of somebody else's comfort, whatever you receive can become cursed because you got it the wrong way. Okay. You got it at the cost of manipulating, intimidating, or dominating someone into giving you what you want. Okay. So, in order to change your future, you must change how you view the past. Okay. Get rid of the regret that keeps you bowing to your past and never looking forward. Regret is all about the past. Okay. It's nothing to do with your future. Regret is a powerful emotion that causes interruptions in your life. Okay. It is a interruption that can permanently stop your progress and cause you to never fulfill your vision. Okay. Regret is your reaction to a bunch of shoulda, woulda, couldas. Okay. It is a comparison of the state you're in now versus where you were. That is what regret is. And regrets can cause interruptions because you can end up stuck there. Okay. But a visionary brings forth and completes ideas, right? That not only changes their world, but it changes the world around them as well. It changes the world for the people that are influenced by them. They don't live in regret. Okay, because visionaries do not allow themselves to be stuck anywhere. Okay, they are constantly changing while still maintaining the direction towards their end goal. Okay, the most common regret, the most common interruption is having enough confidence and courage to live your life to the fullest. That is the most common thing that you see, that you hear that people say when they get to the end of life. They regret not having enough confidence or not having enough courage to live their life to the fullest. If you allow this regret to turn into guilt, it will start affecting your soul and your physical body. If you allow regret to turn into guilt, it will start affecting your soul and your body, which means that your future is now affected by what you should have, could have, or would have done. Okay. And guilt is transferable. How many of you know that? People love to transfer guilt. Okay. Guilt can be transferred to your children, your close family members and friends, anybody close to you. Guilt is transferable. Guilt is very generous. So if somebody tries to put a guilt trip on you, understand this. Guilt is generous. It loves to give. Okay. So do not live in regret. Make a new plan and then plan to change, right? And then change the world. Don't live in regret. Make a new plan to change, and then change the world. Okay. So, whatever you are feeling or thinking, is it your brain responding to what you think is happening or will happen? Or is it responding to what is actually happening? If you're having trouble directing your thoughts and your feelings, this is what I want you to ask yourself. Is your brain responding to what you think is happening or what you think will happen? Or is it responding to what is actually happening? Because a lot of times, what we're thinking and feeling is based on what we expect to happen. It's not what's actually happening. It's what we expect to hear. It's not what we're actually hearing, right? It's not actually what someone is saying, it's what you expect them to say, right? When you feel anxious, when you feel regretful, when you feel pressure, when you feel hopelessness, or when you feel like a failure, ask yourself, what was your expectation, right? Was it negative or positive? So when you start feeling all of these feelings, start questioning yourself. Is it what I expect? Is it what I'm thinking is going to happen? Is it what I'm thinking will happen? Or is it actually what's happening? Before you accept those feelings, before you decide to be anxious, before you decide to feel pressure, before you decide to feel hopeless, it's a decision, right? I want you to know it's a decision. It's a decision to feel hopeless. Okay. You can determine, am I going to allow this to become a feeling, right? Or is this based on the way that I'm thinking? Is this based on what I'm expecting, but it's not what's actually happening? Right? So we now must learn to exchange those negative expectations to beneficial ones. Let's expect the things that's going to prosper us. Let's expect the things that are going to benefit us, right? Unnecessary pressure continues to breed negative expectations. Okay, that's why you got to break that point of contact. Pressure, in order for you to be pressure, in order for you to have pressure or to be stressed or worried, it needs a point of contact, right? Or it's not pressure. You can only apply pressure when you have a point of contact. Okay, so you got to break that point of contact. What is it attached to, right? External pressures are the ones that come from the expectations and circumstances from outside people and events, right? Internal pressures are self-imposed, right? They're from your own thoughts and expectations, right? So you need to determine, am I experiencing this pressure because of things that have happened outside that I've internalized, right? Or am I experiencing these pressures internally from my own thoughts and expectations, right? Exchanging the wrong expectations for the right ones releases so much weight off of you, okay? And you get to determine that, okay? You get to choose that. This is not something that other people choose for you. This is something that you choose for yourself. So you have to exchange your fear of man, your fear of people, your fear of failure, your fear of rejection and abandonment. You have to exchange that fear for an expectation of favor, right? For an expectation of influence, for an expectation of fulfilling your purpose. Okay. You cannot grow in fear. You might get a little bit, but you will not grow because fear will paralyze and shrink you, right? But your positive expectations, they cause you to grow and it stretches you towards your expected end. Okay. Yes, the stretching doesn't always feel good, right? But it's going towards your expected end. So we get to this place where we expect God to do everything He said, right? We expect Him to. Okay. We're certain that He's going to do what He said, right? While not wanting to be expected to do what we said. We don't want that expectation on us like we have that expectation on God, right? We are overly conscious and specific about His promises to us while failing to deliver our promises and vows that we've made to Him. How many of you said, God, if you get me out of this, I won't do XYZ, or I will do XYZ? We still expect Him to keep up. We're very certain and assured, right? And positive about Him keeping up His expectation, but we don't want that same expectation put on us to keep up what we said, right? So I also want you not to allow that entitlement, right, to invade your positive expectation, right? Because entitlement lacks consideration for others, and you don't want curses to follow your achievements. You don't want short lived achievements because of your entitlement. Okay. Entitlement can curse what was supposed to be a blessing by contaminating how it is received. So we want to stay out of entitlement. Yes, there are things that are owed to us, right? But we don't want to have this sense of being demeaning or bitter about it, right? Because what was supposed to be a blessing can become contaminated, right? Healthy expectations create movement, right? Entitlement will corrupt the outcome. So you might get it, but you got it the wrong way. Okay. What you hope for, begin to expect it until that expectation grows into faith, right? Which means that your mindset is that you already have it. Once that expectation moves to faith, that means your mindset is, I already have it. And that's the way you think, feel, and act every single time you show up, right? That this changes the way that you think. This changes how you make your decisions. Okay. So to grow, replace fear based expectations with faith driven ones. And what you expect, that's what you attract. Okay. Remember, regret ties you to the past and it disables your forward vision, right? It puts blinders on you. It keeps your senses stuck in the past, right? Your thoughts stuck in the past. You can't even see the future because you're so busy looking back. You're so busy looking down. Okay. Destroy the throne of regret before it destroys your momentum. So this is the power that expectation have. Whatever you expect, you will attract. So all of those negative expectations, some of those negative expectations have turned into faith in the wrong direction. Like now you are believing that this negative thing will happen without even seeing it. So now you have faith in the negative expectation, right? And so if that is you, start going back. Start asking those questions. Okay, is this what's actually happening right now? Or is this what I expect to happen? And so this is why I feel like this. This is why I'm acting like this. This is why I made this decision, because of what I expect to happen is not what's actually happening right now. And so if we can begin to start controlling those thoughts when they're a thought before they become a feeling, we will absolutely control our negative behaviors, right? And really stop self-sabotaging ourselves and stop being driven away from our purpose. So that concludes our session for today. This will be up immediately. If you know someone who is dealing with hopelessness and don't have a sure foundation, those foundational principles are very important. As adults, we can no longer blame our parents. There's a session on foundational principles. If your parents did not teach you, that's session 11. Go back and watch it. If you're being motivated the wrong way, it's not that you're not motivated. You're just motivated in the wrong direction. Motivation was session 72. And so this is the 85th session. So even if you think you don't need it, go back. And if the title speaks to you, just listen to it. Okay. So I just want to thank you. Thank you, Jay Brown. Thank you. This is not something where I just continue to talk. I want you to take notes. You know what stuff hit you, right? Because I literally ask, okay, what is it that needs to be said? What is it that people are not understanding? Because sometimes there's this link that you're missing. You know where you should be, you know where you've been, and there's just this one link. It could be one phrase in the whole thing that got to unlock you, to get you moving towards your goal, right? And so it's 85 different sessions of every topic you can think of, and it's all God's plan for you, right? This is discovering God's plan. So even if your life started off bad, if it started off unfavorable, you can now make the choices to change your mind. And if you don't know how to change your mind, if you don't know what a renewed mind looks like, go through the playlist for the full sessions, right? And it will literally take you step by step how to practically, how this looks in your thinking, in your feeling, right, in your being. So that's what we kind of focus on: your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. how that looks. How does that all three areas match up and align with God's purpose for your life? Okay, so that concludes our session. I will see you all next Friday at 3 p.m., God's willing. If you know people that are struggling mentally, emotionally, they just need that extra push, please uh, share this YouTube channel with them. Hopefully, and if you know the specific areas that they're struggling in, if somebody is confiding with you in you, and you don't have the words, send them to the session. Like, please go through the list. And if they've confided in you that these are the things that I'm struggling with and you don't have the words, there's something in there that can, minister to them, speak to their spirit, get them out of the pit that they're in. Sometimes we deal with surface stuff, but most of the time we're going to go a little deeper. There may be some irritation if you're listening to these sessions and you're feeling some anger and some irritation. Yeah, that's the hammer hitting the nail. So that's the thing that you want to expose. That's the thing you want to deal with. This is the session that you want to repeat if you start feeling the irritation and the anger coming up. Okay? That's for you. This one's for you. Okay? And so God bless you all, and I will see you all, like I said, next Friday at 3 p.m. Thank you all for joining.